Cities occupy just 2% of the Earth's surface, but consume 70% of its food. They are key actors in a global food system which is responsible for around 1/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions. We are in a climate emergency where a dominant food system is heating our planet. In order to confront this, we need to change how we produce, eat, and discard food in cities worldwide. Due to the scale of impact, cities can become leaders in decarbonizing our food systems and our world while ensuring a just transition. Sustainable food systems are a key solution to the climate emergency. Together, cities can make sustainable and healthy food accessible to everyone. Let's build that world together. We are all part of the solution. 7th Global Forum of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, 19-21 of October 2021, Barcelona.
Bon dia, buenos dias, good morning. Welcome everyone, and thank you for making the time to be here today. My name is, I have forgotten to take off my mask, and this is the first thing that they told me I should be doing. If you allow me, apologies for this. So, good morning, and thank you everyone for making the time to be here today. My name is Júlia López Ventura. I am the Regional Director for Europe at C40 Cities. C40 Cities is a network of the megacities of the world fighting against climate change. This nice video that was introducing the session was talking about the climate crisis. The climate crisis that is intimately linked to so many other crises that we suffer globally. The food crisis is one of them. We are living in a food systems crisis. There is no doubt of it, and we've seen this mentioned many times throughout this event this week. Food contributes to 1/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions, and today we will see what is the role that cities can play in tackling this crisis. We will have 3 speakers in an all-female panel. Thank you for this, City of Milan and Barcelona. As I said, we will have an all-female panel that will be speaking about the role of cities in the global food agenda. We will start with Dr. Gunhild Stordalen, who is the founder and executive chair of the EAT Foundation, and also a good friend of C40 Cities. Thank you for being here today. The EAT Foundation is the thinking mind behind the Lancet report that defined the planetary health diet that has also been present throughout the sessions in this event. And also the EAT Foundation, and particularly Gunhild, has been the chair of Action Track 2 of the United Nations Food System Summit, aimed at shifting to sustainable consumption partners. I would like to invite Gunhild on stage to tell us about this important role and the impact on the work that we are all doing on food systems. Welcome.
Thanks so much. Buenos dias and good morning, everybody. Great to be here and great to see many of you in person. So I also want to say thank you so much to the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact and the City of Barcelona for bringing us together and organizing this important and timely event. So I've been asked to share some reflections of the UN Food Systems Summit that took place last month, share a few lessons learned and also some of the challenges we see moving forward. So let me start with the good news, the achievements. First, it's the very first time the world has gathered at the highest level to address food systems. And that in itself is no less than a breakthrough. The world recognizing that food is a system. And that is because this mindset shift is not a small thing at all, because it's the most important lever for transformative change. When we started our work at the EAT Foundation 8 years ago, we were almost alone talking about food this way, but a lot has happened since then. And I say that it's not a small thing, this mindset shift, because when we understand that food is a system, it also means that we can no longer deal separately with the issues of hunger, of health, of climate change, environmental degradation, pandemics, etc. We understand and see that these are inextricably interlinked. The other thing we see is that we see how crazy the current setup is. One example is that in the same government, one ministry continues to spend billions of dollars every year to subsidize the production of animal feed, of industrial meat production, monocrops, the ingredients in junk food. And then literally across the corridor, other ministries are tearing their hair out because diet-related diseases and obesity are skyrocketing, and greenhouse gas emissions and destruction of nature continue to go up. So this mindset shift is a powerful and necessary first step. The second thing is that the preparations for this summit have unleashed a benevolent monster of energy and activity. More than 140 countries have been holding their own national food systems dialogues. Dialogues organized across ministries and with all stakeholders at the table, from farmers to big food and civil society. And it's literally only about 4 years ago that we in EAT, together with David Nabarro and other partners, were piloting the very first food systems dialogues. And if you at that point had been telling me what I was going to say today, I would not have believed that that was possible. And already, and this is really important and incredibly encouraging, already more than 100 countries, 106 by now, I think, 106 countries have by now developed their own national pathways for sustainable, healthy, equitable food systems by 2030. And for now, these pathways are fluffy. They are basically working documents that still need to be filled and populated with contents. But these documents are all recognizing that we cannot fix food without integrated, cohesive strategies. And fixing food is an absolute prerequisite for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and delivering on the Paris Climate Agreement. So in other words, national governments are finally starting to catch up a bit with you guys at the city level. In parallel, the 5 action tracks set up to shape the summit agenda. We have been doing just that, shaping the summit agenda and more. Built on the science and more than 2,500 game-changing solutions, we have set up a series of global coalitions that together add up to an action agenda for the years to come. An agenda that really is about providing the tools and resources for countries to translate these game-changing solutions into game-changing action on the ground. And it's important to say that we have not done this alone. The solutions were not ours as the action track teams. Rather, we invited the world in and we crowdsourced these solutions from all and any stakeholder and from interested individuals everywhere. In this process, we have also heard from young people like never before, young people and their priorities. The Act for Food, Act for Change Youth Pledge, that is led by youth from all over the world, had by now more than 100,000 individual pledges for food system change, which is quite remarkable. And guess what? The young people's #1 priority, that is for everybody, everywhere, to have access to healthy, sustainable diets. And you will be pleased to hear that we have, of course, engaged cities throughout the entire process. And we have had city officials contributing with game-changing ideas and now also joining the action coalitions, which is great. All this is not to say that we have not had challenges or have challenges. We still have. We have seen and really experienced firsthand that major vested interests are doing whatever they can to put the brakes on meaningful transformation, whether it's the interests behind industrial meat production or those making a lot of money on unhealthy, ultra-processed foods and beverage, or if it's the government departments that are vested in the same status quo. We have seen all kinds of efforts to undermine and to distract and to cause division. But this shouldn't really come as a surprise, because what we are trying to do, and with all of you, we are trying to shake up and rethink the biggest economy on the planet. As you know, food and beverage accounts for 30% of the global value creation, so it's big vested interests. And these must be addressed. It can be done, but that requires political leadership, bold policymakers that can stand up and tackle these vested interests head on. What we also need governments to do is to put in place policies and regulations based on the true value of food. Because today's food prices, as you perfectly well know, they do not account for the full positive and the full negative consequences of our food choices. I mean, take the burger menu you can buy across the street at the closest fast food restaurants. If you look at the costs of that burger menu across health, environment, social, it's everything but cheap. And we need to start acting on the true cost of food. Obviously, it's not easy to challenge the status quo, but that is exactly what we must do. So we are doing it, and cities are doing it. In many ways, our food fates will largely be determined in our cities. As you perfectly well know, by 2050, 80% of our food will be consumed in urban areas, and rapid urbanization has massive implications for food systems at so many levels. So we simply cannot solve our food systems-related challenges without strong leadership from you as cities. But let me frame this a bit more positively, and we always should try to do that. We can say that our city, or our cities, or you guys, are perhaps our greatest hope. You are big enough to have systemic impacts, and you are small enough to get organized and get shit done. The EAT C40 Good Food Cities Declaration, the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, and now also the Barcelona Challenge are all great examples of cities already taking great steps towards action. But with national governments now finally waking up, and all these national pathways that are now shaping up around the world, I believe that you as cities have a fantastic opportunity and responsibility to position yourselves as the vanguard of action, to actually help make these pathways real and to achieve the goal of sustainable, healthy, equitable food systems at the national level by 2030. I also believe that you have an opportunity to really show national governments what is possible in the run-up to COP26 and beyond. Finally, what's the way forward? Well, that's pretty simple. Full steam ahead, all hands on deck, and hand in hand. Because we are running out of time, folks. What we do or don't do over the next 5 to 10 years will literally be decisive for the future of humanity on this planet. So we need to collaborate and hold hands like never before. We have so much to learn from you as city leaders, but at the same time, I know that we have so much to offer to support your work. And I believe that together we can put more pressure, much more pressure on national governments for them to step up and raise their ambitions. So let me end with a confession of sorts. While we achieved a lot through the UN Food Systems Summit process, we honestly wasted a lot of time in endless discussions and endless meetings that betrayed the urgency of the situation we are in. We have the knowledge, we have the solutions. What we need now is political will. So that's why I took action, as you can see here. So if you get this on camera, this is my formal proposal for one more sustainable development goal, SDG 18, stop the bullshit, written in French. Let's do that and get to work, folks. Thanks for having me.
Okay, wait. If you can join me for 5 minutes, thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much. That was amazing, and I particularly loved the stop the bullshit part. It's really amazing. Motto. Thank you, Gunhild, for this inspiring speech. Dear audience, we've had the pleasure of listening to Gunhild Stordalen, who has done a fantastic work as chair of the Action Track 2, despite the bureaucracy, if we may put it like this. Gunhild will need to leave us shortly. In fact, we will have her on stage for 5 more minutes. So I have decided together with her to shift a little bit the agenda, and we will open a mini questions and answers from the audience. We have 5 minutes, so we will be able to take 2 questions, I hope, for your understanding. And I see that we already have one in there. Thank you very much. The microphone must be coming your way. Do you have translation?
Hello, good morning. My name is Morgan Odi. I am a small-scale farmer from France, and I'm here for Via Campesina. La Via Campesina is a world movement of small-scale farmers. And I want to say that we as La Via Campesina, with hundreds, thousands of social movements all over the world, have decided to boycott the UN Food Systems Summit because of the huge conflict of interest that is showed. This summit is a result of a partnership between the World Economic Forum and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres without any vote from the UN. And from the beginning, they have decided that they would choose the champions. They will choose the champions of food. And of course, we, La Via Campesina, as small-scale producers, we are not their champions. Their champions are the big corporations and also some NGOs or movements which are okay to collaborate with the big corporations. But what we say as small-scale farmers is that we do produce 70% of the food all over the world with 30% of the resources. And for us, the main threat is the grabbing of our land, or seeds, or water by the big corporations. And these same big corporations are the ones which have been taking the power over this process. This is the reason why we have decided to boycott it, and we will continue. And what we say is that the right place to discuss food and agricultural issue is with the states, is the Committee for Food Security of the UN, where the states decide. Because the idea of multi-stakeholderism might seem very beautiful, that we all are hand in hand. But this is not how things work. I mean, us, small farmers, we are not at the same level of power as Bayer Monsanto, Corteva, or the big corporation. It's not true that we can be all in hand, while they are taking our land, they are privatizing our seeds, doing all those things. So we want the states, the governments, to take their responsibility. They are the ones who should decide, and not with the big corporations. Right now, what is happening at the UN is really scandalous. They are giving the power to big corporations and the philanthropic foundations that go with it. The Gates Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, they have red carpet right now at the UN. What we want is the states to take their responsibility to protect the interest of the people, both the eaters and the producers, but not the interest of the big corporations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your open thoughts. I'm not sure if there was a specific question, but I believe you were asking for our thoughts on your overall reflection. So this is what I'm going to invite Gunhild to do.
Yeah. I would love to comment, and thank you for airing that frustration. And we are well aware that you did boycott the summit, and you were not alone. We fully understand your concern about the vested interests. I mentioned it in my remarks, the big corporations. But we still believe that we are better off by bringing all stakeholders, from small-scale farmers to other civil society voices and youth and people everywhere in this, what has been really an unprecedented inclusive process leading up to the summit. And if you look at the game-changing solutions that we sourced, the action agenda that has come out, it's not reflecting big corporations' interests. It's about agroecology. It's about healthy, sustainable food being affordable and available to people everywhere. And having said that, I mean, UN is the forum where these vested interests must be tackled. It's not only big corporations, it's also governments. That is what we have seen. We have seen a few or a handful of countries that are really trying to block progress, and we must deal with it. So I really encourage you to not give up. Let's work together and make this multi-stakeholder process the winning team. And we really need the voices of small-scale farmers at the center. And I can assure you that everybody that have been involved in the action track teams, more than 500 individuals from organizations everywhere, they are all with you in what you just said. We need decent livelihoods and fair wages, and we need to start paying people or paying our farmers and fishers and food workers to deliver on ecosystems, services, and healthy food for people.
Thank you very much, Gunhild. It's already past, so I believe that you need to leave us now. So thank you again for your time. And we will continue with the session, but before that, let me give you a fantastic applause for your inspiring remarks.
Thank you so much for having me, and I would also love to have your contact details before I go. Oops.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Best of luck with the rest of the panel.
So let's continue with the session today. We have our two next speakers who have joined us online, Marcela Villarreal and Carmen Burbano. Welcome, both of you. to this plenary session. Marcela Villarreal is the Director of Partnerships and UN Collaboration at FAO. Welcome, Marcela. And Carmen Burbano is the Director of the School-Based Programs at the World Food Programme. Welcome, Carmen, also to you. Well, let's start with Marcela. Marcela, you are, as I said, the Director of Partnerships and UN Collaboration at FAO, also a good friend of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, and I believe, if my notes are correct, you've been participating in previous editions as well. So thank you for being here with us one more time, Marcela. FAO is working on understanding ways in which cities and national governments can better coordinate policies and actions towards food systems transformation. The question for you is, after the experience of the UN Food System Summit, and the representative from the audience also had a view on this, after this experience has concluded, how can the lessons learned at local level fit into other global fora, such as the Nutrition for Growth Summit and COP26? And Marcela, feel free, if you also want to reflect on the question from the member of the audience, feel free to do it. I hadn't introduced you or Carmen yet, but of course, you're very, very much welcome to provide your remarks on this. Over to you, Marcela.
Thank you so very much, and I'm really delighted to be here today with all of you in the 7th MUFPPP Global Forum, and indeed, I have participated in all of the 7 global fora, and I am actually very pleased to see how both the MUFPPP and the forum have evolved over the years. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the MUFPPP and the city of Barcelona for inviting me to, I think, this very timely discussion regarding a new era for the role of cities in the food agenda at all levels, national and also global. The UN Secretary General, as we have just heard from Gunhild, convened this Food Systems Summit. And this is in the face of the epic challenges of hunger and malnutrition that have been growing in the last few years. And this is due especially to 3 factors, others, of course, due to the systemic nature, but 3 in specifically. Those are the destructive effects of the pandemic, climate change, and conflict. And the challenges of putting food systems on a sustainable path are being discussed. They were discussed throughout the process of the summit. They continue to be discussed by a wide range of stakeholders and institutional actors who were previously either not involved or marginally involved in the debate. So this mobilization has been really, really important. The national dialogues were very important, 148 countries participating. They revealed key building blocks for action by governments and other stakeholders to support citizens precisely realize their right to food. At the same time, through the Global Food Systems Summit dialogues, and one of them with a focus on urban food systems, over 900 multi-stakeholders, independent dialogues, including dialogues at city levels. Many ideas were generating on how to transform food systems that need to be transformed. Basically, they need to be transformed to be more sustainable, but also, very importantly, more equitable. So Gunhild was talking about the propositions, the game-changing solutions. We heard from experts, stakeholders, government around the world, more than 2,000 the solutions. In the wake of the summit, our challenge is, of course, to keep food systems at the top of the development agenda throughout all of the SDG agenda, and to support the implementation of the national pathways, building on all contributions that this process generated, going, as Gunhild said, to action. An extremely important outcome of the summit was a clear recognition of the key role of urban food systems, namely that ushering urban food systems towards sustainability will go a very long way towards promoting sustainability at all levels in the food system. And I think this has been a historic development. Cities were recognized as a key part of the solution to address the triple planetary crisis: climate, loss of biodiversity, and pollution, to offer better lives for everyone. I would like to highlight some of the key points and lessons learned from dialogues and initiatives related to the urban food systems, both during the summit process, but also our and others' work on urban food systems. First, food systems transformation towards sustainability requires both horizontal and vertical policy and planning coherence. What does this mean? Well, integrating policies and programs on food with those of other systems, as was mentioned already, such as health, infrastructure, energy, you name it. Also ensuring coherence between policies and programs throughout the national, local continuum. So this entails, inter alia, strengthening the regulatory, institutional, and financial capacities of urban and local administrations, as well as the policy space and resource space. Second, there's a need for governance mechanisms which promote a meaningful and inclusive engagement of local authorities and stakeholders in the national and global food systems agenda. At the national level, a key entry point in the process of implementation of national pathways, while at global level is the CFS, the Committee on Food Security, mentioned already by Gunhild, a platform, but also, of course, the upcoming COP and the Nutrition for Growth Summit processes. These are going to be fundamental entry points. Third, there's an increasing need to leverage place-based solutions for food systems, which cut across administrative boundaries. This rural-urban continuum, heavily dotted by small cities and rural towns, constitutes a governance vacuum, and new and innovative approaches are needed to fill it. Urban areas can become the aggregators of local food systems activity. Namely, small and intermediary cities can act as regional market centers or hubs, offering innovative employment opportunities to rural residents and the rural poor, and they can connect traders and producers with customers and markets in larger metropolitan areas. So, what could be some steps forward? I would suggest 4. First, promoting the establishment of food systems network of local and national actors where a common understanding can be built on key issues regarding the national-local links to promote food systems transformation. Second, strengthening the global urban food systems coalition, which could become a crucial platform for promoting the vertical integration and ensuring coherence across levels of government. So just in case you missed it, the Urban Food Systems Coalition is part of the emerging coalitions of the Food Systems Summit. This is, I think, a very important achievement. There was a big kind of race to promote coalitions and to promote coalitions in this process. And it was not evident that we were going to have one, but we do. Urban Food Systems Coalition. It aims at promoting coherent action on urban food systems and fostering linkages between national and subnational governments. The Urban Food Systems Working Group, with 26 diverse member organizations co-led by FAO and GAIN, and including, of course, MUFPP, can be the nucleus of such coalition and the driving force behind its formation and expansion. I'm happy to inform that a number of countries have expressed their interest on this initiative. And of course, it's very important to have the full involvement of countries that have to be the leading force for these coalitions. The establishment of this coalition, we believe, is a very important next step towards supporting both national and subnational governments in designing and implementing food systems, policies, and actions. Third, back to the CFS, and we fully agree with the importance of this platform, expanding the CFS advisory group to include representatives of cities and localities so that their voice, concerns, and contributions can be a permanent element in the deliberations of this extremely important platform where we join the governments with civil society and private sector. Fourth, filling the gap in data and evidence generation. So in this context, we call on the CFS through its high-level panel of experts, but also other stakeholders, including UN agencies, to sharpen their attention to the generation, use, and capacity building around data and evidence regarding sub-national food systems. To conclude, we need to leverage the work done by and capacities of city networks, academia, civil society organizations, and UN agencies to inform and support the implementation of national pathways and ensure the inclusion of urban and local food systems in the emerging action plans. Urgent and coordinated action is needed to make food systems more efficient, inclusive, and resilient to price volatility, weather shocks, and climate change in an era of rapidization. FAO remains committed to support governments at all levels in this transformation. Before I close, let me express mine, but also FAO's appreciation for the enormous work and contribution of the Urban Food Systems Working Group in promoting the recognition of the fundamental role of urban food systems throughout the summit process. A big thanks to the group, its secretariat, and each one of its members in this really game-changing contribution. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Marcela, for your words. I would like to ask the audience to please save your questions for the end. And I would like now to welcome on stage Carmen Burbano, as I said, School-Based Programs Director at WFP. Welcome, Carmen. You are responsible for schools, and actually this is a very relevant topic in the event that we are in today. In early 2020, school feeding programs delivered more meals than ever before to 388 million children, or 1 out of every 2 primary school children worldwide, which is impressive. School meals are more than meals. They are key educational elements and a crucial issue to work and to ensure healthy meals for children that are sustainable for the planet. During the UNFSS, the World Food Programme has launched the School Meals Coalition that is supported by over 60 countries and 50 partners, including the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. Question for you is, how can cities benefit then from the participation of their respective countries and work together with them? And on the other hand, how can cities push their countries to support the coalition? And as well, Carmen, if you would like to also address the question that we had from the audience, you're more than welcome. Over to you, Carmen.
Thank you so much for inviting me today. For us, these kinds of conversations are really vital to make sure that the conversation that started in the Food Systems Summit continues. And as Gunhild was mentioning, but also I think in general, the spirit of the summit is really to continue. That was just an initial, let's say, awaking of that gentle giant that Gunhild was mentioning. But we hope that this keeps it alive and keeps the conversations moving. Before I answer your 2 specific questions, I just want to spend 1 minute explaining really what this coalition is about. Many initiatives were launched at the Food Systems Summit, as Gunhild mentioned. This one was probably the one that garnered the most amount of consensus and support. And I want to be very specific about what this coalition is. First of all, it is led by governments. It is not led by the UN. It is not led by WFP. It is led by governments that really got together, led by the government of Finland and the government of France, that basically got together and said, we have a platform, a tried and true and tested platform to transform food systems globally, but also at the same time guarantee healthy, nutritious food for children, get them back into school. In the context of the COVID pandemic, this became even more urgent because of the closure of schools that we saw globally. And together with that, the near collapse of all the school meals programs that we saw around the world. And so when the Food Systems Summit was being discussed in the early months of this year, it became clear that it could help us reach many of the SDGs. It could help us connect to education outcomes. It could help us solve issues around nutrition, better eating habits. help to address issues of overweight and obesity. Many of these cities that are represented here today are dealing with those issues, but also connecting to smallholder farmer purchase of food, connecting to local markets, bringing and creating jobs locally. So really looking at a very concrete solution, a game-changing solution that had happened, that has been happening all across the world, but that really needed a boost. We needed to restore it because of the pandemic, but we also came together with these countries and said, what can we do to make these programs truly transformational? What can we do to enhance their quality across the board, and also to incorporate new and better approaches, particularly to more sustainable value chains and food systems, but also climate-friendly approaches, and incorporate this into the meals and into the programs that are already working. So this is what the coalition is about. At the time of its launch, 60 governments had joined the coalition. And here I'm not talking about just kind of informally joining. These are statements of commitment that were signed by presidents or by ministers of these 60 countries. Together with those countries, 50 partners also committed their support, including the 5 leader UN agencies, WFP, UNICEF, UNESCO, WHO, FAO, but also think tanks, academic institutions, NGOs, and others really looked at this as one platform that could really be expanded to deal with many problems at once. Specifically, I also want to highlight that C40 cities, which is a network of 97 cities around the world, and the city of Milan, were one of the first ones to sign the declaration and to join the coalition, and we really want to thank them for helping us to garner the momentum, but also for my participation here in this event as well. Thank you all for that interest. Now, you asked me why is this important for cities, and you mentioned that school systems are very important for this conversation. It's really important to note that 30% of cities run school feeding programs directly in the C40 network. So this really gives mayors a very important role in this issue of what are we doing in terms of guaranteeing sustainable, nutritious, healthy food for children in schools all around. For example, the city of Paris, and I visited this program a couple of years ago, the city of Paris serves about 30 million meals every year in about 1,300 canteens. So this is a large safety net, a major investment that cities are making into this platform that could be really transformational. About 70% of the food consumed globally is eaten in cities, and you probably already are very much aware of that. So these are really crucial topics, we think, of how these platforms and these safety nets can be used as transformational tools for healthier food and healthier environments for children. How does the coalition propose that cities can relate to it, and what could be done? Well, first of all, about half of the cities that have joined the Milan Pact are in countries that have joined the coalition. So already we have a really important part of the constituency here. I'm talking about, for example, Addis Ababa, Berlin, Bogota, Chicago, Copenhagen, Dakar, Guatemala City, and many others like San Francisco and Moscow. All of these countries, these governments have already joined the coalition. So what this means for you, for the cities that are already in countries that have joined, and we're happy to give you that information as well. We have a website that has all the countries that have joined, is first and foremost, these countries are now tasked with developing and determining their own national commitments towards these objectives. What are governments going to do to restore access to these programs to make sure children go back to receiving meals that they were receiving before the pandemic? What are countries going to do about the children that were falling through the cracks even before the pandemic? We know that in many of these cities, in many of these countries, children were not targeted. In many cases, children that were living in extreme poverty that were not reached by these programs. So what are we going to do to jointly work with these governments to increase the budgets or the policies to reach those outer reach children? And the third objective, really, I think, really important across the board, is what can we do and what can cities do to work with governments to improve the quality of these programs and also the innovations that are coming with them. There's also a really important element that cities can foster, which is improved coordination between local and national government entities. We know, for example, that the city of Copenhagen is working with the Ministry of Education of Denmark to improve the delivery of the school feeding program. So there's an element there that we're hoping can also start to happen in terms of local versus national conversations around what do our children need? How do we build better environments for them to learn and also for them to get the nutrition and the health that they need? I'm going to end by saying three major things that we think we want to propose to you in terms of a partnership with the coalition. One is we think that cities are a really important actor to share best practice, promote learning of what you're already doing. Networks such as the Global Forum for the Milan Urban Food Security Pact, you guys, the C40, are really important to promote the knowledge and sharing, the peer-to-peer exchange of what you're already doing. So that's one thing, and one of the things that we're interested in doing is maybe documenting best practices from the different cities and forming a peer-to-peer network perhaps might be interesting. The other element that we are seeing very much happening in cities is that you could be really at the cutting edge of modeling new approaches that could be taken up by governments as a whole. First, in terms of introducing new approaches for nutrition quality of the meals, but also climate-friendly approaches to these programs. And again, here, for example, I want to highlight the experience of Copenhagen, who they have shifted to a climate-smart, plant-based diet approach to school canteens. And that is now supported by the government. But again, this is something that has started in a city. Barcelona, we know that school canteens are being transformed to include mostly locally and organically sourced food that is really focused on an increased vegetable-based protein diet. So again, really important initiatives there. The city of Lagos has really successfully connected school meals to local agricultural production. And so that supports local economies around these programs. So really important innovations that are happening in the cities that could be exported, both at the country level, but also in other countries. Finally, we really welcome other cities to join the coalition. There are several initiatives that might be interesting to you, including a brand new research consortium that is being led by the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. The idea is to gather as much evidence as we can for better decision-making at the local and the national levels, and also a peer-to-peer network that is being started by the government of Germany. But we know for a fact that they're looking for partners. And these partners can be cities, they can also be governments and others, to look at how do we start sharing best practices in a more efficient way. So really my participation here today is a big invitation for the MUFPP network, but also for particular cities to join this global movement until 2030. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Carmen. So, dear audience, we have a few minutes left before the end of the session, and I know that lunch is waiting for us, but still I wanted to open the floor to you in case you have any outstanding questions for Marcela or for Carmen. Now it's the time. So I invite you to raise your hands. Marcela, Carmen, I believe that we are all very hungry today. So before we close the session, I wanted to say two things. First one is a little bit of housekeeping reminder. I believe you might have with you some Thai tea bottles.
But
so
maybe, if there's no additional questions, maybe we can react to the views of Via
yes.
Campesina.
But let me finish with this reminder, and you can react to the other question. Of course, yeah.
Sure.
So let me finish with the bottles. Remember to return your Thai tea bottles. And now, over to you, Marcela.
Gracias, muchas gracias. Yes, indeed. Again, like Gunhild said, we are very aware of the boycott of La Via Campesina and other civil society organizations to the Food Systems Summit. This is something that has been very, very important for us at FAO, because at FAO and the rest of the UN, the voices of civil society and very specifically Via Campesinas as a long-time partner of FAO are fundamental. We cannot think of a future of the food system without the active participation and the voices and the ideas and the action of civil society, and in particular, long-standing partners like Via Campesina. So we certainly will want to continue this dialogue with Via Campesina and continue our partnership with them, including through the platform of the Committee on Food Security, which is going to have a role in the follow-up and the implementation of the Food Systems Summit outcomes. So we look very much forward to continue our collaboration with you in this regard. And I'd just like to react also to Carmen and her very important contribution of the coalition. This, in fact, I think that if we want to see a very good example of sharing lessons learned, good practices across cities, bigger, smaller, north, south, it is the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, which has gathered very, very good best practices at local level, including for school feeding and including for local procurement, including for procurement from family farmers, which, as you said so very well, does make a very important contribution to local economies and to rural development too. So strengthening those city linkages and contributing actually to both through better food, better nutrition, and more impact also on the rural areas producing the food and the family farmers. So, and actually some of these very good initiatives from cities have already received prizes, and the prizes that the Milano Urban Food Policy Pact gives every year have recognized some of these very, very innovative approaches too. So I believe that together we will be able to contribute to all these game-changing solutions that were proposed, discussed, and I would like to invite also Via Campesina to participate in this process of implementation, whereby their contribution and their voice is really necessary together with that of all other stakeholders. Thank you, and over to you, Júlia.
Thank you very much, Marcela. Carmen, would you also like to react?
Myself off of mute, okay. As usual, the problem of muting. No, I just want to thank all of you for inviting us to participate. We are aware that not all of the constituents were necessarily in agreement with the Food System Summit process, and as my colleagues have said before, it is a really important topic for us in the UN, in the Rome-based agencies particularly, that we are consulting with partners that might feel that additional conversations might be needed of how to address the issues that have been brought to the table. We have, I would say, especially in the coalitions, and for my particular one, the one that we've been championed from my team, which is the School Meals Coalition, we have understood that there is, for example, a really important interest from the private sector to enter into a dialogue of how school meals programs could be made more sustainable, more effective. But there are also enormous risks and conflicts of interest in that relationship. So I just want to share, for example, the approach that we have agreed in the coalition we will take with the private sector is we have essentially decided that there will be a discussion in the next couple of months within the coalition of rules of engagement with the private sector, some sort of charter of principles or a code of conduct or something like that that enables us to identify private sector companies that are aligned with our values, that are aligned with our interests, and that really are about building more sustainable and more nutritious school meals. And so this is the way that we have approached the issue of collaborating with the private sector. We believe it is crucial in moving forward with this agenda, but also understanding that there are risks that need to be managed and conversations that need to be frank about the expectations of where we want to go. Thanks.
Thank you, Carmen. Let me give it one more try and ask our audience if they have any questions. Via Campesina would like to react. The microphone is reaching you.
Yes, thank you, and sorry to take the floor again. We are very keen to work with all the states, all the governments, and all the UN agencies, because we believe that they are the legitimate actors to make the decisions. There are three main points which are our priorities, and which have not at all been taken in account into this summit. This is food sovereignty, the issue of price and market. The second is agrarian reform. We need land, water, and genetic resources to be fairly shared, distributed to small-scale farmers, fishers. And the third one is peasant-based agroecology. Normally, I shouldn't have to say peasant-based agroecology, because it should be obvious. But now some actors, well, mainly the big corporations, make us think that we can produce sustainable food only with technology, with biotech, digitalization, robots. I will tell you one thing, it is not true. They will require a lot of energy, a lot of power, a lot of oil, and they will destroy our employment of us farmers all over the world. So we need to defend the fact that right now, the small-scale farmers and fishers are the ones producing the food for everybody. It's not the industry. The industry is producing the agro-fuel, they are producing palm oil, all those things. They are not feeding the people. We are feeding the people. But we need more farmers in the future. So how can we stand together to make sure that the farmers have access to land, water, seeds, peasant seeds, first, and that we have access to good prices and to the markets. On all these things, we are in conflict with the corporate sector. Let's not lie to each other. There is a conflict. So just saying that we are all in solidarity, it's not true. But we need to put this conflict on the table and deal with it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And do not worry about taking the stage twice. Your interventions are not only welcome, but also necessary. So thank you for this. I would like to, as I said in the beginning, I had two things. One was the bottles reminder, already done. The other thing, before I conclude this session, is I wanted to share with all of you a news from last Sunday, actually. And this is, I don't know if you're aware that the city of Milan was awarded by the first ever Earthshot Prize in the category Build a Waste-Free World for the initiative Zero Waste Hubs. The Earthshot Prize was launched by the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and is the most prestigious global environment prize in history. It's centered around 5 airshots, and Milan just won one of them. Each one of the 5 categories was awarded with £1 million, and I just wanted to finish this session by congratulating the city of Milan. So a round of applause for you as well. Thank you very much. We can go to lunch now.